So nice to meet you all. And it's funny, actually, when I was coming up here, I realized that the CTV other talk was like 20 minutes ago. So hopefully I was looking at quotes on repetition is the key to success. And hopefully that's the case today. All right, so quickly, I'll just do like a couple slides on Adjust to give you what perspective we come at CTV. I know there's some questions about attribution, and that's where we're coming at it from this lens. So hopefully I can provide some different insights and then really convince you to try CTV as a channel. We do have a cool case study. So that looks into more of the attribution window, some keys to actually how to use CTV. And then lastly, just the Adjust solution and how it actually works. So who's Adjust? So we started 10 years ago. So we actually celebrated our 10-year anniversary last month. We have 16 offices worldwide. Adjust itself is around 600 employees, but we were acquired by AppLovin, who's also here, which takes us to like over 1,000. And then lastly, just for scale, just to give you guys an idea, we do have our app, our SDK implemented in over 50,000 different apps. All right, so quickly what we do. So connected TV is kind of the newest part of what our offering is. So before that, like our real goal is doing three things. So as a marketer, we want to help you be smarter, help your job be a little bit easier, and then make your job and your marketing dollars also more secure. So on the smarter piece, so attribution, if you all have never heard of a MMP, mobile measurement partner, really the core of what we do is you're running campaigns across mobile, web, and now CTV. How do you know where to actually spend your money? You do that by having one source of truth that gives you not just the install, but post-install metrics as well. And then easier, we also have a platform that automates and does campaign management within our platform. So you can now automate Facebook, Snapchat, Apple search ads directly from your attribution platform, which is where you already got all the decision making from. And then lastly, more secure, we do have fraud prevention suite. And also our SDK is, we're a German-based company. Secure data, especially in this day and age, is super vital. All right, so what is CTV? If you were here, Joel gave us some pretty good overview on it. And the acronym is just Connected TV. But when we look at the ecosystem, so Vibe is a big part of it. But when you think about the big name brands, they're the streaming services. So Netflix, your Hulus, your Disney Pluses, those are the main players that I know I spend way too much time on. But then when you look at where you're actually consuming this content, so for myself, it's Samsung Smart TV. I use that every day. But you have your Xbox, your PS5, your Amazon Fire Stick, and then you actually have your desktop and your phone as well. And then beyond that, you actually have the operating systems. So similar to Apple and Google on your phone, you have Roku, Amazon Fire TV. You have a bunch of different players all vying for power right now. And then most relevant for this group here is where can you actually purchase those ads? So as we mentioned, Vibe, big partner, but there's a ton of people doing this. And you'll see it's really not, it's a growing space, but it's kind of already here. So Joel talked a little bit about like some of their numbers, and I'll show you some of ours. But like you have partners like the Trade Desk, really big public companies that are really getting into CTV and seeing the value in it. All right, so as I mentioned, CTV is always growing, but I would say it's kind of already here. So I know all of us here, more tech forward, probably a lot of us have smart TVs already, but over half of households in the US are smart TV only. And then we look globally with trends, so 75% of new TVs that are bought out there are all smart. So that 50% number is going to keep growing and growing. And the expected MAU, so I was actually happy when this number definitely lined up with Joel's, 197 million estimated MAU on just CTV in 2022. And then we look at spend. So specifically in the US, we're seeing 60% increase in ad spend this year. So it's getting more and more competitive. So that's why it's always a benefit to start getting in earlier. And then in terms of like total spend globally forecasted for CTV itself, we're looking at about $19 billion. All right, so when we look at the apps that actually have the inventory, so where would you actually be showing ads on CTV? So the big one everyone thinks of is the streaming apps. But if you also think about it, like I do workouts on a Peloton app through my Samsung TV. I wanted to challenge everyone here, like think outside the box with your app and see if there is a use case for it. And then specifically for gaming advertisers, that is very much a place where users are beginning to expect that you're going to have an app for them to play on their TV that also lines up with your mobile app or with your mobile web presence. So yeah, on Apple TV specifically, over 20% of apps that are being created right now and are on the Apple TV store are gaming apps. And I wanted to take a little bit dive into like our perspective on why we think connected TV is such a growing force. And part of it, so with the iOS changes, which I'm sure everyone here loved, us included, people are really looking for different places to find advertisers or to find new users. So with privacy regulations, targeting just being a little bit more difficult with iOS 14, and we have Google's Privacy Sandbox coming up, you need to find places that you can actually target users in an effective way. So like we mentioned, we have location data. So IP address, this is one of the things that Apple is really cutting down on. But with CTV right now, it's still very much there, and you can use that for targeting. And then we mentioned large reach. So 197 million users are out there. And in my case study, I'll go into incremental lift on it and why there might be users that you're not thinking of, that you're not getting on Facebook, Google, Snapchat, that are actually on CTV, and if those users are actually even more valuable than mobile users. So part of the power of CTV is it's a social norm. We've been watching TV our whole lives, but we're now giving advertisers the opportunity to really know, okay, what ad does this user want to see? When do they want to see it? And where do they want to see it? So you've gone from passive, very brand awareness campaigns to performance advertising that app marketers know and love and are trying to find more of. So beyond that, you're also meeting people where they're at. So this says dual screening. I know I'm a tri-quad screener. I have my phone, my laptop, maybe my iPad, especially if NFL Red Zone or something's on. And then I'm also watching TV. And so what that gives you is a medium that's there's so much more real estate there so that you can play around with different creatives. We all saw the Coinbase Super Bowl ad, obviously a smashing success. But McDonald's has been doing this forever. If you've been on Hulu, and I might just be targeted for these ads, but you are getting a QR code and you can actually get a free Big Mac. So people have been doing this. You have to find what's right for your app, but it's just so much more of a creative play around that you can have and try out different things. All right, so hopefully with Joel's talk and with what I just went over, you're like, okay, how do I actually get started on connected TV? And what is the measurement out there and targeting out there? So the reason I'm standing here today, is a week ago, we actually launched a new product called AdVision, which is the first fully comprehensive CTV measurement solution in the market. And what does that mean? So we have the ability to track both CTV to mobile, which I'll talk about a little bit more. And that's the part where people are like, oh, actually, that's really cool. I can look at my phone, download an app, and we'd be able to track that back to an impression served on TV. But we also do just general CTV to CTV. So CTV to CTV would just be, hey, I built this gaming app on connected TV. I want to show that ad on Hulu to get people to download that actual CTV app. So we can track that as well. And the really nice thing about this is, mobile measurement partners have been out there forever. A lot of people have used them in the past. I'm sure some of you have used Adjust. We wanted to bring CTV measurement to a place that you're comfortable with. And so what we're doing is we're bringing it into our normal dashboard. You can view it across all your mobile campaigns, all your web campaigns, and then all your CTV campaigns. So then you can actually know how's that performing compared to mobile, compared to web, et cetera. And then within that, you can actually build those campaigns straight from Adjust. So when you have if we talk about QR codes, really made a big comeback the past few years. Every tracker that you generate with us will automatically have a QR code. So if you want to just create a tracker, use that QR code on a cool CTV ad, that'd be really easy to do. And then the last thing, which is actually, in my opinion, the most important, is we offer custom CTV assist analysis. So what does that mean? And Joel actually talked about this a little bit as well. you can't look at CTV the same way you look at mobile and you look at web. So in the case study I'll go through why, but just know if we were to do this with last click attribution, which is the norm in the industry, we would have only tracked 3% of the attributions that actually occurred because of the impression being lower than click in the attribution waterfall. But I'll go into that a little bit more. But overall, so CTV to mobile, our goal with that is, all right, I'm on my phone, I look at an ad on McDonald's on CTV, I myself download the McDonald's app, I now am able to track that impression that I saw on my smart TV back to the install of the app on my phone. And not only that, we can tie back all the post-install metrics, that subscriptions, revenue, all the way back to that initial install. So you can go out and try CTV and be able to talk to your execs about how it actually performed. All right, so I'll go through a quick case study on one of our biggest partners. So one of our biggest partners in gaming, multi-million-dollar ad budgets. They ran a campaign in January, global audience. They ran it across Viacom, Hulu, Tubi TV. And then I'll split these up by two different numbers. But the top two, so they generated 60,000 different installs via CTV. And when you think about that, okay, they're running millions of installs a month. Is that a lot? Well, they had a 4% incremental uplift on these installs. So when you're running at scale in the millions, 4% is a huge uplift. And what that told them is that, okay, hey, maybe there's some users out there that aren't seeing us in other places. And are those users actually even more valuable than users I attract on mobile or web? And the answer for them was yes. So they actually had a 37% uplift in revenue on organic, which is pretty wild. And then they also had a 100% uplift on Google Ads. So overall, we're seeing users are even more valuable. And I tie that back to, okay, it's a really creative ad. They're very engaged. They have their phone right there. So when you look at it, and when I talk about attribution windows, the real thing that we learned in this case study is the power of assisted installs. So as I mentioned, only 3% of installs would actually have been attributed to that campaign if we did it on a normal last click attribution. So that means that if you're pushing your team and saying, hey, I really want to do CTV, if you were to do it in a normal way and not have multi-touch attribution set up, you'd only track 3% of those installs, and your boss would come to you and like, hey, what the heck? So the key, and one of our clients, Plarium, the reason they work with Adjust is you want to make sure that you're getting every single touch point and you're being able to cohort that back so you can see impressions not just from the day of the install, but over time, and see, okay, what was the actual power behind these CTV campaigns, and not just lose a lot of traffic because an impression is lower than a click in an attribution waterfall. Like at the end of the day in advertising, we should be thinking bigger than that. Last click has done us well for the past 10, 15 years, but with newer channels coming out there, we just need to think a little bit harder about how things should actually be attributed. All right, so last piece, like what questions can you answer with CTV? So you can see, hey, are my users actually more likely to subscribe? Are they more likely to purchase? Are these more valuable users than I had before? What's the retention rate of these users? So are they acting differently than my other users? And then, yeah, lastly, what impact does that have on LTV and my actual bottom line revenue metrics overall? And with that, hopefully it wasn't too repetitive. Hopefully brought some new info. But thanks everyone for listening. And I'll talk, my whole team's here. So we'll be out there if you guys have any questions about CTV or Adjust and measurement in general. Thank you.